USS George Washington rushes toward Iran as U.S. carrier power shifts away from China's doorstep. As America moves a major warship toward Iran, is Taiwan being left with a thinner U.S. shield in the Pacific? China watches America's power shift away as Beijing could get a freer hand to pressure Taiwan. As Taiwan faces a potentially thinner U.S. defense shield, could Beijing see a rare opening to step up the pressure? USS George Washington entered the Middle East, preserving U.S. carrier power against Iran as Washington maintained a major naval presence in the region. CENTCOM said the carrier arrived on August 19, replacing USS Abraham Lincoln after the carrier completed an extended deployment in the Middle East. Lincoln ended a 9-month deployment that involved intense combat operations, maritime missions, and sustained support for U.S. forces in the region. The carrier flew more than 10,000 sorties during its deployment and used about 1.5 million pounds of ordnance in combat operations. Lincoln's prolonged deployment also exposed growing crew fatigue and logistical strains as disrupted supply routes complicated sustained operations. USS George Washington now maintains U.S. strike and air defense capabilities across the Arabian Sea, keeping carrier-based power close to Iran. However, experts warn that moving the Washington from Yokosuka reduces the visible concentration of U.S. carrier power near China and Taiwan. The rotation highlighted Washington's wider force dilemma as the U.S. military manages simultaneous strategic pressure from Iran and China. For now, the U.S. retains submarines, bombers, and land-based aircraft across the Indo-Pacific despite the carrier's temporary shift toward the Middle East. However, the handover sustains military pressure on Iran, while also highlighting the growing strain on U.S. naval forces across multiple theaters. China's reusable rocket breakthrough could now reshape the military race in space, giving Beijing a way to launch satellite constellations faster and at lower cost. On August 19, Landspace recovered the first stage of its Zhu-Q3 rocket on land, after the vehicle successfully launched a satellite into orbit. This marked China's first land recovery of an orbital-class rocket booster after launch, using a controlled vertical landing supported by deployable landing legs. China has now recovered orbital rocket boosters using 2 different methods, demonstrating both land-based vertical landings and ship-based sea recovery operations. Zhu-Q3 landed vertically using landing legs, allowing Landspace to recover the booster on a designated landing site in Gansu province. Long March 10B was caught by a net at sea, using a specialized recovery ship to capture the returning booster above the water. China is the first nation to achieve both orbital booster recovery methods, combining a vertical land touchdown with an ocean-based net capture system. The United States has not demonstrated both recovery pathways, despite SpaceX pioneering routine booster landings on land and drone ships. America still leads in total booster recoveries, with SpaceX operating the world's most mature, reliable, and frequently reused rocket launch system. Interestingly, Zhu-Q3's landing legs and stabilizing fins resemble those used by SpaceX's Falcon 9, highlighting how closely China's new booster mirrors the US design approach. Zhu-Q3 and Falcon 9 are broadly similar in overall size, with both designed as large 2-stage launch vehicles capable of deploying payloads into low Earth orbit. Zhu-Q3's stabilizing fins resemble features found on the US rocket, helping guide the returning booster during atmospheric descent and recovery operations. Falcon 9 has a significantly higher stated payload capacity to low Earth orbit, lifting up to 22.8 metric tons compared with Zhu-Q3's reported 14.2-ton capacity. Zhu-Q3 uses stainless steel as its primary structural material, differing from the aluminium alloy construction widely associated with Falcon 9's rocket body. Landspace says stainless steel could make production cheaper, potentially lowering raw material and manufacturing costs as it seeks to scale up reusable launch operations. Methane oxygen propulsion reduces soot and coking during operations, helping engines remain cleaner during the repeated use needed for a reusable booster system. Cleaner propulsion could make repeated rocket reuse easier, reducing maintenance requirements and improving the turnaround time between launches. China's reusable rocket breakthrough could have much bigger military consequences, because cheap and frequent launches can transform the pace of satellite deployment. Reusable boosters could lower costs and let Beijing put satellites into orbit much faster, allowing China to replace losses and expand constellations at scale. that could speed up deployment of large distributed military satellite constellations, strengthening China's intelligence, surveillance, communications, and targeting capabilities in space. U.S. Space Force officials warned that China built the expanding network to track mobile American forces, including warships and aircraft operating across the Pacific. China had fewer than 100 satellites in 2013, when Xi Jinping came to power and Beijing began rapidly expanding its space-based capabilities. Beijing now operates roughly 1,900 satellites, reflecting a dramatic expansion of China's orbital infrastructure over little more than a decade. More than 500 are remote sensing satellites, designed to collect imagery and other data from Earth for civilian, military, and intelligence purposes. The network can track mobile forces across the Pacific, providing China with persistent observation of ships, aircraft, and other military movements. U.S. aircraft carriers can be monitored from orbit, giving Chinese forces information that could help identify a carrier's location and activity. Destroyers and cruisers can also be tracked, extending China's space-based surveillance reach across the wider U.S. Navy surface fleet. U.S. aircraft deployments can be monitored, allowing Beijing to observe military air activity around the Pacific and nearby regions. Satellite data can cue China's long-range weapons, linking orbital surveillance with missiles and strike systems designed to hit distant targets. Washington is now openly calling for new anti-satellite weapons as China expands in orbit, reflecting U.S. concerns over Beijing's growing military space capabilities. Reusable rockets could also help China challenge America's edge in global launch costs, allowing Beijing to compete more aggressively in the commercial space sector. China's two recovery breakthroughs may now begin eroding a key U.S. edge in space access, as reusable launch systems promise lower costs and faster deployment.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.